Guys, I know you're studying for exams this week, and I wanted to share this site with you. It is from the University of Arizona, the Learning to Learn series. A number of us in Vet Tech have been attending webinars on learning, and I was really excited when I saw this. One of the things we talked about this last week in our webinar was how going over notes over and over, reading textbooks over and over, has been shown through research to not be that effective as far as long-term learning. So this site goes over several different things that are good for learning and help reinforce it. I think that when I study your names and I'm trying to get to know you guys, I go to the pictures that I have that you all had taken when you came to orientation, and I need to look at them over and over again. It's just practicing retrieval of information. We are all familiar with this when we go to websites where we need to put in our passwords. And the ones that you go to every day, say your bank password maybe, or something like that, you will remember much more readily than something that you went to 3 months ago. Spaced practice is something that relates to this retrieval practice. We need to space out when we go back and look at information. So this is actually telling us that an hour of study is not as effective as, say, 3 20-minute study periods. When you look at your notes and you engage in them some way, and I know that one of the ways I engaged in my notes that was really effective for me was to go back, correct things, in a day, within a day or two of taking the notes, and then in the margins, I would write questions. I would look at the information and say, what could I be asked about this? And I would put the questions in there. And this was a way for me at the very end, before when I'm studying for the exam, to go back in and just quiz myself. My questions were right there. And so I did it as I was correcting and going through my notes, but then I came back to it. And sometimes a couple of days before the exam, I would sit down and look at those notes again. And then the night before, of course, I would do it again. So just know that if you have little bits of time, that can be just as effective or more effective than sitting down for a whole hour to study something. It's also good to get up and walk around and change your focus, do the laundry, whatever it is, come back. That is not a bad way to study, to do little bits. Our attention span is not that long, that's sitting there for hours and hours. You're going to become distracted after a certain point. Elaboration, we will do this in class where I will be asking you about chapter 3 in particular. Pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics is really important in understanding the way that drugs work. And so you'll be needing that knowledge later on in the class. Interleaving is an interesting practice, and it has to do with the fact that studying just a single topic is not necessarily the best thing for learning it. You may, for instance, when I give you specific drugs to study, it's usually about one big topic, but we'll be learning, for instance, different kinds of antibiotics in the next chapter. And looking at them as a group instead of just sticking with one category can help you to make differentiation between the different classes of antibiotics. And that helps you to learn them better than to just say, okay, today I'm just studying this particular type of antibiotic. It helps to kind of mix them up as you're studying them and think about, well, what is the difference between an aminoglycoside and a penicillin? I'm going to let you look at these other topics if they are of interest to you. The growth mindset is a really important one. It kind of makes you realize that your mind is not set. It is always learning. So if you click on these, they have great videos that go into these topics more. Happy studying.